I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. Hello, Foxy listeners. Welcome to the show today. I am so excited to introduce my guest, Michelle. Michelle, thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into automation.
Absolutely. So I'm the creative director of a company and co-founder with my partner in business and pleasure, as we like to say. And I get to run the creative fun side of things. I get to do podcasts and come up with strategies for clients, the creatives. And then Brad runs the technology side of the business. We've been doing this particularly for since about 2015, 16, somewhere in there. And we've just been having a blast doing it and helping small businesses grow.
So talk to us a little bit, because we hear a lot about like digital marketers and all of that other stuff. So tell us what sets you apart.
What sets us apart is really Brad. So he has about 40 years experience in the IT world. He has a very different background than I do. He touched a computer and went, oh my God, I'm hooked. We just calculated it, about 28 pivots my career since I started. And so clearly I'm not attached to any one way of doing things. I love the diversity and the spontaneity. And he loves being able to work with businesses to strategize how that they grow. So we don't work on tactics or projects that people want done. They go, I just want a website. I just want this. That to us never really works. It's being able to look at your entire business structure and going, okay, what is the overall plan here? What are you planning on doing? Are we doing event-based selling? Are we doing, is this just a pure, Facebook, Google ads thing? How is your structure? How do you want to set up your business? And then creating business plans and breakouts that work for them so that they're maximizing their efforts and they're maximizing the results.
Well, I think that's key for a lot of people, because oftentimes it's sort of spraying the hose and hoping that something works, right? They're trying all of these, different tactics and, thinking like, I'll just be able to do this by myself, because we hear that all the time, right? Automation is really easy. So talk to us a little bit about, is this something that they should be doing on their own? And
we
why
don't
not?
think so. and there's really, if it's not your wheelhouse to be doing tech, then it's not your place to be doing it. And for the most part, the cobbler's children are always running around barefoot. It's even if you run a marketing tech company, sometimes we see the smart ones will have somebody else doing their tech and marketing for them, or they'll have somebody to brainstorm with to be able to come up with plans, because we can never really see our own issues with the glaring reality that somebody else looking in can see them with. And we want to be able to help business owners to do it. But we know that when it comes to tech, if you've ever had a conversation with a tech person, you realize that the majority of them are all in abbreviations for things. And I was in a class one time and we laughed and we said, okay, for one conversation, you have to say everything out. So you can't use HTML, you have to say hypertext. And then it was brutal. It was like everybody got lost in the conversation because it just takes so long to have that conversation. And if you don't know what those acronyms are, then you also miss out on the conversation. And if you've ever spent any time on a tech support call, you know how frustrating those are, because they always start off with, is your machine plugged in? Like, yes, thanks.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
And that is the first thing you have to do usually. But But then after that, it either becomes really patronizing or the conversation immediately goes over your head and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And well, that's what happens for me anyway. I don't know what happens for you. I don't like being on those calls.
I turn it off and on again. I turned it off and on. I kicked it. I'm done.
Yeah,
somebody else fix it now.
The window is open. Help now.
Yeah.
Life's over. Yeah, that is totally me. And so we just want to be able to help businesses to not have to do that. Our techs will sit on on hold and wait for them, and we'll have the conversations. We'll go back and forth. We know how to call people on it and go, no, that's not what's really going on. Because oftentimes when you get two pieces of software, each one will blame the other for what's going wrong. And in the end, we just need to make it work. I couldn't care less where it's going wrong. I just need to know how we get it going right. And you don't have the time to be doing those sort of things, let alone, where is that button for that thing? Where is that, how do I set up that email for this thing? How do I not blow up my system when I just want to add somebody to this campaign? And then simple things like that really can blow things up if you don't know what you're doing in the back end. So we don't think that business owners should be doing it. And a lot of times when they're small or they're just starting off, they're going, well, yeah, but I don't have the money to be able to do that. Totally get that. And that's why you want to have a business plan in place, not just this is how much we charge for our services. Can you afford it or not? You want to have a build out plan and go, okay, so what is the point of all this? What do I plan on making from doing all of this? And, putting up cat pictures on Facebook every week isn't going to monetize. You got to figure out, how is it going to monetize? What are you leading people towards? And what's the game plan?
I think there is a few key points in that. One that you said, which I say this all the time, is that the hardest thing to ever do is to look at your business objectively, and it's absolutely impossible to do. And I say that for people who are like, do you have a coach? And I'm like, all the time, since the first time I started a business, because I realized that somebody, like, I know all of the ideas are in my head, but I need somebody else to go, have you thought of this? And then I can fly with it. Right. But it's, you kind of, you get stuck in it. And I love that, you said that, have somebody else come in who can look at it and has no attachment to anything and go, no to this, yes to this. It's just such an easy thing to do. And, so I want to talk a little bit about the difference between marketing and business automation, because I think right now, especially, we hear so much about just automate. And so, but is that beneficial? Right. And then they're like, great. So everything's automated, but what exactly does that mean? So can you talk to us about the differences?
Absolutely. So first off, just from semantics point of view, business automation takes into account your entire business. Anything that you have to do for business, from, putting posts out on Facebook or LinkedIn, things like that, all the way through your operations, your accounting, everything. If it's a business write-off, it falls under the umbrella of business automation. Marketing automation is just one sector of that. And that is from your lead generation to your creating raving fans in the end. And sometimes that can, if your systems are set up properly, include your sales and your accounting, because there's when people buy things, obviously through your marketing, that is the goal. That includes your sales and then, of course, your accounting. So there can be some flow through there. So that's just from a semantics point of view. When you're looking at what do you want to automate, you don't want to automate your entire business. You want to automate the things that are repetitive, boring, tend to break down when humans do it, things that people want to have access to when you don't have the ability to be there for them. So as my father used to say, and I love to say it, once is an accident, twice is a mistake, 3 times is a habit. So in that beginning stage, you're throwing ideas out, you're trying to do things, you're having 6 different conversations, and you're hoping that one of them will turn into a connection or a sale or something. As soon as you have that same conversation 3 times, you know that it works and you know that you're getting conversions off it. That's when you want to look at automating it. And it's not necessarily that you don't want to have those conversations anymore. It's just, is this an email that I keep writing? Is this a phone call or a voicemail that I keep leaving? Could I put that into an email, a PDF, a video, a whatever, so that people can access that when they want it and they don't have to do it during my business hours when I happen to be available? Because most people business owners don't have the time to spend 100% of their work time in customer service. They're doing fulfillment, they're doing their appointments, they're doing all the other things that they have to do. So it doesn't really even make sense that they're going to spend all that time continuing to have those conversations, and realizing that your clients or your prospects are probably looking you up after hours because they just spent their whole day doing the thing. And now they're trying to solve their problems of, I don't ever want to have a day like this again.
Yes.
Make this stop. Who do I need to get a hold of? And that's when they're looking for you. And that's when you want to be able to have those conversations that convert. So it might be having a chat bot on your website, but it might be having a FAQ on your website. It might be having video FAQs on your website, and just, starting to look at what are some of the things that are repetitive in my day that you're going, oh my God, if I have that conversation one more time, I'm going to kill myself. That's what you want to get out of there, because you really want you and your people to be doing things that are fun and spontaneous and creative and all the things that people are really good at.
I love that you said, that point, because I think a lot of times people try to automate everything. And I'm hearing it more in people that are like, I just want to automate the whole thing. And I'm like, well, what the hell's the point of having a business? I'm like, I like doing the most
I
exciting
love having a
things.
business. I just don't want to have to talk to anyone.
I don't want to have to do anything. Right? I actually had somebody the other day who said, I didn't realize that being in business was going to be so much selling. I'm like, what the hell did you think it was going to be? Like, I just don't that's
I
like
just get to do my thing and then I'm done, right?
I'm like,
and then
that doesn't, but it's funny how many people think, I'm like, that's like going, well, like I went to school to be a teacher, but I didn't think I was going to have to teach so much. Like, this doesn't, and she's like, well, that sounds stupid. I'm like, yes, but I like, didn't you look into this? Like, but I think there's a lot of times that people don't, right? They just think, oh, I'll just do this because it's easier. Well, I've lost my job, whatever the case may be.
Look at professional services, right? Dentists, lawyers, they all go to school to essentially run a business. And none of them had been, certainly not in the 80s, 90s, taught how to run a business. That was never part of the curriculum. I think it is now. They're starting to get into it because they realize, like, hey, you have to do your own marketing. You have to do sales. You have to have, customer service while you're dealing with your clients. There's a whole lot to business that people don't realize. And yes, if they just got laid off, then they think it's one thing. I used to have a fantastic business coaching, working with people that had got a buyout as a C-suite executive that would then go and buy a franchise thinking, oh, it's a turnkey system. It's going to run itself, right? Like, no, you don't have a pool of secretaries that are at your beck and call to be able to help you to get this done anymore. We got to figure out another way to do this. And really, understanding, backing up the bus and realizing that even the entrepreneurial mindset, the rules of the game are totally different. If you think that, going into your email first thing in the morning and going, okay, what does my boss want me to do? And in this case, what do my clients want me to do is going to run your business for you. You're doomed for failure. The rules of the game are completely on their head. You cannot look to an external circumstance for your success. It is all internal. And that is slightly terrifying at the best of times, but when it works phenomenally well. And I think that's why a lot of people say, not everybody's made for entrepreneurship. I'm like, yes, they are. They just have to go through the tendering process of figuring out that they're in control of the situation.
Yeah. And ask the right people, I think, is the thing too. Like, I've had a few people that said, oh, like, would you ever own a franchise again? I'm like, not in my life. Never again. It was extremely successful, but
nice.
We got so big that they just couldn't keep up with us. So then we got stuck. We're like, well, we want to grow, but they can't grow as fast as we want to. So what do we do? Like, do we just stay here? And you were sort of hindered underneath that. It was a fantastic learning experience. And it was kind of like everything was kind of set up for you. There was like rules and stuff, but I'm not a good rule follower. And there were some things that I was like,
here's another key indicator.
Yeah. Like, I remember sitting in meetings going, this is stupid. This doesn't make any sense what you guys are doing. Like, and that was when I realized, I really cannot get a job. Like, I would be like, yeah, I would either be in HR department way too many times going, you can't talk to people like that. I'm like, well, what do you want me to say when they're being stupid?
Right.
But not knowing going in, and I didn't do, like, frankly, I didn't do my homework beforehand, because it was a situation where my husband worked for the company as an employee and then decided to move over to franchise. So we just thought, oh, all right, well, we're doing it, not realizing, the change. And I think a lot of people these days, do that with everything, including with their marketing, right? They don't really look into what is that going to need. Like you were saying before, this needs to be something that you almost budget in because it's going to happen. You're going to need it, especially, when you start out. Or also too, do you find like when businesses kind of hit that point where I don't really want to still say stalemate, but you kind of flatline a little bit and you're like, I don't know which way to go. Am I just going to stay here? Am I going to grow? How do I do that?
Absolutely. Well, and you hit a ton of good points, because marketing tends to be about 25% of your budget, whether that's you and your time doing it, and it's you and your money doing it. A lot of people don't realize that. So when they go into it, they're going, oh, yay, now I make 100% of my money. It's like, no, you don't, because you either need a salesperson and they need commission. You need to, have the materials to go out to people, or the time that you're paying somebody to create those materials to go out, even if it's a, essentially free system like social media and emails, but you still have to have that, and they have to be skilled at it. Yeah, we've all seen, you go into somebody's Facebook page and they smatter you with information. So you go in there and you go, hey, I have a question. They're like, our hours of operation is this. Okay, thanks. And that automation at those times just doesn't work, because people aren't putting in the time to step into their ideal client's body and go, okay, what does this experience look like for me? Right? We're all very familiar with what we're doing because we talk about it all the time and we're thinking about it all the time. And then when it goes to happen, like, we have a certain way of seeing it, and we don't realize that the client is seeing it for the very first time, whether we've been doing it for 1 month or 6 years. They're seeing it for the very first time, and what does their experience look like? And that's what we want to be able to work with entrepreneurs with and their teams, is to figure out what their ideal client's journey is. And yes, you still want to have a ladder of ascension, meaning you want to have products that they can take one step up and connect with you. But sometimes your ideal client is just going straight to the top, but then you don't have a top product to be able to sell them. They want you one-on-one time. Okay, what is that worth? And you want to understand that that's going to be your most valuable product. Like, that is your high-end consulting, that's your high-end one-on-one time, and everything else falls in between. And what does that structure look like? Which is, of course, is very different in a manufacturing plant than it's going to be with a coach.
Yeah. And I think deciding whether or not that's a path you want to take too is something that people tend not to do. I mean, I remember doing accounting and people saying like, I want you to, like, what would the cost just to have you do everything? And I don't even remember. I was like, $549,000 a year.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to pay half up front. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I can send you the info on it, knowing full well I had no info on it. And I was like, please remember this number, because I didn't want to do it. Like, that's really what it came down to. I had the number, and then I realized I need to make sure, but realizing that because somebody said, make sure you have that number. But I thought, what if somebody does that? Like, knowing my luck, somebody one day is going to be like, okay. And I'm going to be like, God damn it.
That's why you got to make sure that number's high enough.
Yeah.
Right. Because seriously, somebody will take you up on that. And it's slightly terrifying the first time. And when you go through and you go, damn, that number was not high enough. It's not worth my time. And you realize, because they're not just using your time, they're using your energy, they're draining your energy, they're draining your capacity, your creativity. All of those things come with that service. And you have to take that into account. And it's not just, oh, I charge $250 an hour. No. Because now they've taken away your ability to oversee things. They've taken away your ability to be able to, plan out your years and how that's going to work. There's so many things that get factored into that you really, really want to have a coach with you to go like, how much is really enough for that? Yeah. Or just say, I don't do that, period, end of story, and I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Which is also fine.
So let's talk a little bit about because we've talked about like a lot of things that people like can automate in their business, but let's talk a little bit more on the other side of that. So what are some things that business owners, entrepreneurs should be aware? This is something that you should not be automating in your business. Can we go into a little bit more specifics with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's those creative conversations that you want to be having. Those are the ones that you don't. Now, there's also a time where you don't need automation. So if somebody's a coach and they just want 10 clients at $10,000 a year, and they're working 10 hours a week, they're perfectly happy doing it. Awesome. fantastic. That is a fantastic lifestyle. And do not let anybody question you on that one. Being able to go, jet setting, living a backpack lifestyle, whatever it is that you want to do with that's fantastic. You need a cell phone and a merchant account so that you can go, hey, how's Tuesday at 3? Awesome. What's your credit card number? And put it through. That's really all you need. You may find that you're special kind of crazy like me and going, hey, I want to have 50 employees. I want to have, multi-million-dollar business. I want it to be international. As soon as you start making decisions like that, then you want to look at what the automation is. And for the most part, it's not necessarily automating what you don't want to do, because sometimes hiring somebody else to do what you do is the better option because they're creative. But again, we're going back to, if it's monotonous, if there's manual processes and things that are tedious or repetitive, you really want to put systems in place in order to be able to automate those. Anything that has to do with your data, your CRM, your clients' contact information, who bought what, when, how much they spent, where their payments are at, all of that. Your system, if you have a monthly payment system, anything where people pay monthly to be part of your program, if that process isn't automated and the follow-ups for the credit card information, like, hey, your credit card didn't go through, hey, your credit card didn't go through, that alone can cost you more than your entire system costs you, and probably somebody to man it. And that alone is worth implementing and putting a system in place. But you also want to make sure that that system then integrates with your CRM so that whoever's fulfilling on that product isn't necessarily fulfilling until the product's paid for. Because I can't tell you how many businesses fulfill on something, they put a ton of effort out, and meanwhile their clients are at 90 days and they're like, nah, I can't afford this anymore. And you've just put in 3 months worth of work that you're never going to get to see back. And that is costly. So it's things like that that you're not paying attention to because it's just not fun for you. It's not your wheelhouse. Nobody really likes paying attention to accounts receivable.
No, it's true.
They just like getting them.
Exactly. Well, and I think too, what sometimes happens is, like, I know for myself, there are some points in automation where I'm like, oh my God, can I just have a freaking person? Like, you're like 1, 2,
the phone. Oh my God,
5.
telecoms.
Oh my God. Like, it drives me nuts. So like, that was one thing I've always been aware of. I always want to have something that, even if there's like some automation going, that there's at some point where people can be like, hit the panic button and be like, just a person, please, God, please, just a person.
Right. Well, yeah. And it's so true. And people, for the most part too, will make it really difficult for their clients to give them money, which is hilarious. It's like, okay, one, if they want to talk to you or a person, figure out a way to make that happen, because those people are going to pay you money. It's worth having somebody to answer those questions when they want to spend money on you. Second of all, make it really easy for them to spend money on you. People who don't have a system where I can go in and buy a product right off your website, it doesn't make any sense to me. Or at least give you a deposit and know that, hey, I'm interested in what's going on, and that you have a follow-up system to go, hey, these guys have put a deposit on this, I should probably follow up with them.
Right.
Or a salesperson should probably follow up with them. Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about who it is that you're looking for, because I think there might be people who are listening to this going, yeah, okay, I feel like this is what I need, but I don't want to do it. Because I think, like, creating all of this, I mean, it all sounds like a good idea, right? The automation and having that where you don't have to deal with that sounds like a great idea. But I think the reality of actually doing this yourself and making sure that it all works and the kinks are something that people are like, nope. How much do you want?
And so you shouldn't. As soon as you start to realize, hey, there's acronyms at the back of my website that I don't understand what they are, then you start to realize, hey, this is not my jam. I don't want to be playing in this arena. So yeah, I think it's immensely important to figure that out. I forgot, I got caught up in the last part. What was the initial part of that question?
Just how people give us all of your details and do some shameless plug-in.
Yes, plugins for us. So yes, we love helping entrepreneurs build their businesses, in that we want to be able to work with you to structure kind of how that works. So how we start off usually is with a free gift. And it is a website audit, and it's going through, it takes about 15-20 minutes it actually scrapes through your website and goes through it. So it's not an instant report. But it'll come back with about a 30 to 50 page report, depending on the size of your website, where it'll go through all of your green lights, your yellow lights, and your red lights. And your green lights are where the Google gods are allowing traffic to go to your pages. And that is awesome. Love that. People can see what you got going on. Yellow lights are where they're slowing your traffic down, meaning that they're not allowing everybody to get eyes on that site because something's gone wrong. And it's usually in the world of copy or design. And then there's some cases where you have red lights and Google's stopping traffic altogether, going, no, we're not letting anybody go to your site. Those usually have an acronym behind them. So at the end of the report, you'll get a link to be able to connect with me and have a discovery call. I will go through and translate into English what all of it means so that you can then either implement it if that's what you want to do, take it to your team, or potentially if you want to look at like, what does it mean to work with us? And if we're not a good fit, I usually know somebody who is, and I can refer you on to somebody else, because we want you to be able to get the support that you need, regardless of where you're at in business, and being able to help you move forward. So if your website is broken, we want to make sure that's up fixed. Then we want to make sure that it's monetizing for you, that you're getting clients through there, and that you have a sound business strategy that can help you to achieve the lifestyle and the goals that you want to achieve.
That's awesome. So, going to like the business side of things, what is one thing, thinking back in all of your experience, that you were like, wish I would have known this sooner? I'm totally putting you on the spot for this.
Yeah. One is that I was one of those people that always got stopped by, I don't have the money to implement this. And I wish I would have known that there are people out there that will build the strategy in order to be able to help you to figure out when you're going to make the money. Because business is actually pretty predictable, especially in the eyes of people that have, cracked the system. Once you've cracked the system, you understand that, oh, this will make you money. This will make you money. This is going to cost you money. You're going to have to figure this out on your own and make some decisions. The quicker you can do that, the faster you're going to make money on them. And they can actually lay out your entire year and go, here's what you need to do, when you need to do it, how much money you can make in those moments, so that you know that you're paying for the systems that you're putting in place. I wish I would have known that, because I listened to the J. Abrahams of the world that said, hire the best because they can do it faster, quicker, and help you to build the money. And I went, well, that sounds great, but if I don't have the money, how am I going to pay for those things to happen? And it was always sound advice that I didn't know how to utilize. And I think now more than ever, there's a lot of people like you that you can go to and go, hey, Tanya, how do I actually make money doing this? And you can see where the money comes from. And when you can see where the money is going to be, then it makes it that much easier to be able to implement systems that help you move forward faster.
Well, it's so true though, because I think there's oftentimes that people go, well, I invested in all of these coaches, and I'm like, how many courses are you going to take? How many coaches are you going to, like, I mean, I've been through a lot of coaches too, but I think like at some point you got to stop learning and start implementing. Like,
right?
How many binders do you want on your shelf that you never look at again? Because I'm guilty for that. I had a stint about 5-6 years ago where I was like, I was a conference hog. Like I was just going to all of these conferences, and it was great when I was there. Implemented nothing. Maybe one thing.
I have
maybe.
even in this last year been silly enough to, and I knew it, is to pay a coach to get me to a place that I wanted to be. And in the end, she was able to get me where she got, but she wasn't able to get me where I wanted to go. And there's a whole story behind that one, but I should have taken my own medicine, which is always ask more questions than you put money down. Always ask more questions at the beginning. You have an expectation of what you want to get out of that coaching program. You have an expectation of what you want to get out of that, whatever it is that you've bought. Make that clear as to what you want. And there is no wrong to that. So if what you want is somebody to hold your hand and make sure that the things get done so that you can do them, then make sure that you're hiring the kind of coach that holds your hand and gets you through the thing to make sure that it's done, because not all of them are. Some of them are, I'll give you feedback on what you did, but you got to do it. And if you don't know what buttons to push, you don't know what thing is going on next, or you lack the confidence, you're going, you're telling me to write down the 3 pillars of what I teach, but I don't even know what you mean by that. Like, you got to be able to ask those questions, get past that, and move on. Especially when somebody is working with, a legal firm and they're like, okay, we need to have the technology to allow somebody to answer the phone and know whose contact that is, and get all the information almost before, you say hello. There's a lot of technology behind that, and not everybody has wherewithal to be able to answer what kind of systems can do that. So again, it comes back to wherever you're at in business, just asking more questions than you're putting out money for. And then that way you're at least hopeful that you'll get the right answers.
Well, and I think too, on the other side of it for coaches is like not being afraid to not take clients. Like I get people all the time who say like, you always say you don't take everybody. I'm like, I don't take everybody. I honestly will only take people I know I can help. Because there are some people where I'm like, nope. Like
Right.
I just know right off the bat in an initial conversation. And that to me is way more stress than what it's ever worth.
Ever.
Because it just takes so much more time, right? Because I'm trying to like always be like one step above and everything like that. And, I'm too old to try to be bigger than what I am. That's really what it comes down to.
And I think it's at the beginning, who's your client? Oh, anybody that breathes. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And has a wallet that can open.
exactly. And you have 5 of those, and then you start to put the bumpers on the the bowling alley, so to speak. It's like, oh, okay, these ones aren't so much fun for me. And oh, those ones on the other end aren't that much fun for me. And you start to narrow that down, and giving yourself permission to, especially when a relationship doesn't go well, is to analyze not, what were they expecting in that relationship, and what didn't I articulate that I wasn't willing to deliver in there. Because a lot of people come to us and go, automate my business. You just run it and then I'll collect the money. It's like, no, we don't do that. We implement your tech for you. You have to come up with what are your products, what are your services, what are the benefits of them? Why would I want to buy that thing from you? And that's all on you. And you have to be willing to make those decisions. I can't make those for you. And if I were to make those decisions for you, I just go and start another business.
Right. And I think that's, I'm glad you brought that up because it's such an important piece. And I see it all the time in my clients too. The first thing I say is, how much work are you willing to do? Because I'm telling you right now, I can give you the roadmap on how to get wherever it is that you want to get. But if you're not going to be putting the work in, and I'll tell you, you cannot pay me enough to do all of this work for you. Like, I think you have to be willing as a business owner to go, okay, I'm going to take time off and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a lot of effort towards this, because I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, right? You hear it, I've hired somebody to do something, whether that's a coach or for something, and they're like, and it's not what I wanted. And I'm like, well, did you tell them what you wanted? Well, no.
Well, they're not psychic.
I don't know how to, what's the problem, right? But it's like, they just didn't do it. That's not what I wanted them to do. Like you said, they just didn't run the business. I just wanted to sit on a beach and have money come in. And I'm like, well, good for you. But that, like, where does that ever happen?
Right. Well, and a lot of people go, oh, we have the business solution. You can make $1 million online. All you need, one click away, which drives me crazy. And people will buy
10,000 in 10 days.
Like, awesome. But you do realize that their formula is to talk to all the successes that they've had and all the millions that their clients have made. And it's like, if you're selling tomato soup, your clients aren't making millions. Like, it doesn't work for everything. Like, their golden ticket is their golden ticket. It's not everybody else's. And to me, going into business isn't about making money per se as the only thing, because if it is, that'll drive you crazy. I mean, even if you're money motivated, I totally get it. I love money. Don't get me wrong. But if that's the only thing motivating you, you're much better off to just go and get a job, because then at the end of the day, you can walk out of the building. The problems aren't yours. If they flood, who cares? It's not your issue. And if that's the way you want to live your life, it's not the entrepreneurial way. You have to be willing to get in the grind and bring that thing to life that's niggling inside of you, going, hey, I know I can do something bigger. I know I can build something better. And if you run a business like we do, like, for example, when we do our websites, we work with our clients to build those websites out. So we'll build a preliminary one and go, okay, here's a skeleton. How do we want to dress this? We are not the kind that will go, hey, here's 3 different designs. Which one do you want? If you make any changes to either of them, it's going to cost you X more. That's not how we approach it. But some people just want the thing done and it's like, oh, that's beautiful. I'll take that one. All right. So we kind of have the ugly child and we make them beautiful over time. And you need to know that, because as a business owner, if you don't like going like, change this, change that, if doing that drives you crazy, you're not going to like working with us at all, at all, at all. And those are the kind of things that you want to know. How do I deliver on this thing? And who likes having that? Like the creative people love working with us because they're like, oh, I have this idea. I just don't know how to bring it to life. Okay, talk to me. What does it look like? What would you change here? What don't you like about this? And eventually it morphs into that beautiful thing that they had envisioned in their brain. And it's all good. We can make as many changes as they want to, and we're good with it.
Well, and I think that strikes a chord with me because I'm like, here, I've got this great idea. I'm great with the ideas, but I don't want to make it.
Right.
Right. Like, I'm like, oh, I mean, I do it all the time. I'm like, I have this great idea for this dinner, honey. Here, like, here's all the ingredients that you need. And he is like, and I'm cooking it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to cook it. I just had the idea. And he goes, it sounds really good. And I'm like, doesn't it? But sometimes that's just where it stays because I just don't have, it's not that I can't do it. It's just, I'm like, I don't know. I came up with the idea. What else do you want?
Exactly.
And
we just make sure that it's exactly what you wanted, because if in the end it's like, oh, I made your recipe and here it is, and you're like, oh, that's not what I thought it was going to be. We want to make sure that it is what you wanted it to be. So for those of us who have an idea, we don't know how to make it come to fruition, we help them make it come to fruition. And when they go, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Then that's when, the clouds part, the angels sing, and we're both happy.
Well, I think it's like art, right? You go to paint something and you're like, oh, this is going to be good. And then at the end, somebody's like, is that a unicorn? And you're like, elephant. In my head, it was a stunning masterpiece.
Right?
Right? That's when you go, maybe I need some help. Maybe somebody else needs to draw this. And I think that's what then, like you're saying, that's where like people can come to you then and go, look, I have this idea. I've tried to put it out on paper, but nobody knows what it is. Could you help it so that it actually looks like the elephant I want?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because you have this idea in your head of what it's supposed to be. So if they're creating their thing and it's not what you want, you're never going to be happy with it. There are some people in the world that are like, for instance, you go to build a house. You're like, okay, I just really want a 4-bedroom house, 3 things. You look at the blueprints, you're like, yeah, this is perfect. I'm not that person.
Me neither.
I want a closet here. I want a window there. I want an electrical outlet there. I want, and build it the way I want it. I didn't ask you for that. I asked you for this. Can you build it this way? So I get it. I'm a little bit of a diva, and I guess we work with those kind of divas.
I wouldn't say you're a diva.
Kind of diva,
I do the same thing too. I'm like, no, but I want to change this out. I want to put this tiny little cupboard in this spot because it makes more sense. And then I want to move this over here. And they're like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, but it'll look pretty in the end.
Yeah, we love you. We want to work with you.
But then if you know that you're that kind of person, and I know there's a lot of people who listen to me that are that kind of person, then you just have to search out who it is that is going to be able to provide that for you. I mean, I even did it when we were looking at, our idea is to retire soon and be able to just travel. And so we want to have a trailer. I searched for a company that was just going to give me the chassis, and then I got to build it. So I was like, just give me little blocks. And that's what you do. You literally take little blocks and you're like, can I put a bedroom here? And then they figure out if they make it all kind of work. And I was like, that I love, but I also knew I needed somebody who was going to go, that's not really going to work for
really
electrical or whatever.
You got all the weight over there. And
right. So you're going to so I needed some, but because sometimes on paper it looks really, really pretty, but it's not realistic.
And by the time you're done, though, you are ecstatic. You will never leave that trailer in your life. Whereas the other person just goes and buys one off lot and goes, oh, this is pretty. And then 6 months later, it's not working for them. They just sell it and buy another one. And they're happy doing that. It's just a different kind of personality type. And the sooner you can find whatever that thing is for you, then you can articulate that to your clients. Then you're just kind of widening the bumpers on who you accept and who you don't. And when you have a perfectly clear line and it's single file to you, that's when nirvana hits. Like they know that they're right for you. You know, they're right for them. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I love that. Well, we'll make sure that we have all of the links to where everybody can find you if they're like, yep, that's me. I am that person. I want to have the ideas and I want somebody else to do it. This dream world. We'll make sure that they can talk to you. Thank you so much for all of your advice and tips. I think there's a lot for people to kind of sit back and think and go, okay, how do I actually want my business to look? What is it going to cost me to get there? And how can I make that happen? So I really appreciate your time, Michelle.
Love it. Thank you for having me. I'm having fun being here.
Wow. Having Michelle as a guest, she has such a wealth of knowledge. We had so much fun chatting even off air about all of the things. So if you are somebody who is sitting there going, you know what, I really want automation. I have an idea in my head of what I want that to look like, but I just don't know how to make it happen. Then Michelle and her company is definitely somebody that you're going to want to check out, because I think that's the key in this world. What is it that you want to automate? Does it make sense to do that? And can you have somebody who comes in, doesn't matter what it is for your business, have somebody that you trust, that you connect with, who's going to be able to come in, look at your business with kind of fresh eyes and be able to say, this is going to work, this isn't, and then go from there. So no matter what it is that you're doing today, whether you're automating or whether you're deciding to do it yourself, whether you're joining the program or whether you're just sitting back on a lounge chair enjoying, make sure that you take time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?